I would like to read chapter 21 of Luck, Luck and Folly, which was a memoir of a trip around the world that I took long ago that took almost 2 years and during which I spent about $4 a day. At this point, I'm about halfway around in India. And in this chapter, I'll talk about trying to get back together with my ex-wife that after being split for 3 years. So, chapter 21. Linda and I arranged to meet at a certain hotel in Bombay the day her flight from California arrived. I went to Pioneer and bought a train ticket. I took the Malabar Express, went a few stops south and changed to the eastbound Madurai packet. It was a hot night, and I got off the train to buy a cold soft drink. I was standing on the platform, lost in thought about meeting Linda when I noticed the red taillights on the train seemed to be getting smaller. Oh my God, the train was leaving. My backpack was still on the train. I started running down the platform, dodging around passengers, baggage, livestock. I was gaining, but the rate at which I was gaining was decreasing. I reached the rear door of the last car. It was locked. I had to get to the front door of the car before I ran out of platform. I made it, and with my last urge of energy, I threw my shoulder bag through the open door, grabbed the handrail, and flung myself in. I lay gasping on the floor for a long time, listening to the conductor laugh. When I finally caught my breath, I joined him. Just before dawn, the train came to a stop in the middle of nowhere, and the passengers were told to get off. A train coming the other way had derailed. We walked to the other end of the derailed train and waited for hours until another train came and took us to the next city. I sent a telegram to the hotel in Bombay to tell Linda I would be a day late. Then I went to a Bollywood movie. I never figured out the different ticket prices in Indian theaters. The prices didn't seem to coincide with how good the seats were. Maybe it had something to do with the caste system. The movie was typical. The leading couple were attractive and about 20 pounds overweight by Hollywood standards. The hero always had to tuck his shirt back in after a fight. The music, dancing, and costumes were very good. I enjoyed it. When I got to the hotel in Bombay, Linda was not there. The manager said she had checked out and gone to Kerala. I don't remember how I got the tip, but I went to look for her at the YWCA. She was seated in the dining room. She got up, we hugged, we kissed. She had never gotten the telegram because the hotel manager had been hitting on her, so she left right away. We bought train tickets and went to a hotel. Things weren't the same in bed that night as they had been in our past. I put it down to culture shock. I felt sick as we boarded the train. I soon had a fever and diarrhea. Linda was not getting a good first impression of India. By the time the train pulled into Pioneer, I was almost recovered. We had lunch, and Linda got her next shock. Kerala food is perhaps the spiciest in India. It had taken about 2 weeks for me to get used to it, but now I craved the chilies and other spices. I still do. I tried to reassure her that she would come to love this food. We had a pleasant walk to the Gurukula. I introduced her. She liked the other students and indicated that they were mostly her kind of people. She liked the guru as a person, although she thought he was a bit sexist. She found his teachings interesting, but I soon saw that this was not the sort of religious study she was looking for. She wanted a more contemplative practice, beyond ideas and philosophies. Linda talked about what she had been doing in California. She had been studying meditation and yoga with an Indian guru named Dadaji. He had just recently been sent to the United States by his teacher, Babaji. Dadaji was supposedly very advanced. It was said that he had learned English in one day to prepare for teaching American students. She had also been attending Stephen Gaskin's Monday night classes. She liked the teaching of Chogyam Trungpa and some young guru up in Bombay named Rajneesh. I could see why she found all these people more interesting than Nataraja. She had been living in an urban commune named Neverland in Menlo Park. They had pooled all their money and were about to make a down payment on a farm in Oregon. When they all moved to the farm, they would support themselves by farming and making wooden toys. I had a sudden flash of clairvoyance. When I returned to the United States, I would make wooden toys. One morning, not long after we arrived at the Gurukula, Linda started telling me her dream from the night before. My father was cooking dinner. It was some sort of stew with meat in it, and he was cutting the meat up into perfect little cubes, I said. And I went on to describe the remainder of the dream we had both had. We asked the guru what it means when two people have the same dream. It means you have some problem that you need to talk about. Sometimes the guru was good at his job. There was a big religious philosophical festival coming up in southern Kerala. It would be even more of an extravaganza than the World Parliament of Religions had been, and we were all invited. Near the ferry landing in Pioneer was the home of friends of the Gurukula family. Before heading south, we spent the night there, but the house was small and most of us slept outside. Again, I was sleeping in the streets. On the southbound train the next day, the student group was in a festive mood. The grounds of the festival looked like a circus. There was a large tent for the main stage, another for dining, and other tents for us to sleep in. There must have been something like 1,000 participants. Daytime was taken up mostly with lectures and evenings with entertainment. There were all denominations of speakers, including Buddhist, Jain, Sikh, Muslim, Christian, and many varieties of Hindus. The differences in the Hindus ranged from Nataraja's rarefied intellectualism to priests who looked like witch doctors that had just stepped out of the jungle. Actually, I think they had. Some of them had wild hairdos and brightly painted designs on their faces and naked chests. The guru didn't speak, but had given several of us short discourses to read. It seemed kind of dumb, but I did it anyway. There were strange wait a minute. There were strange haunting sculptures by the Australian William Ricketts. I don't know if the sculptor himself was there or not. At mealtimes, tables were piled high with the most fantastic Indian food I've ever eaten. Curries, breads, chapatis, candies, fruits, and many things I couldn't identify. I never realized there were so many kinds of bananas and so many ways to prepare them. Evenings were the best. There was Indian music and dancing from all schools, from tribal to classical, and it was all exceptional and professional. But the Kathakali dancers were just totally bananas. The costumes and makeup were way over the top. As they gyrated, jumped, and gestured, they acted out a plot. It was easy to follow because the story was always an overacted melodrama. It was one of the best shared experiences of our days together in India. I don't know whose idea it was, maybe Guru's, but someone thought Linda and I might benefit from some time alone together and somewhat isolated from the Gurukula. We were told that the organization owned a little hut high up on the hillside and not too far away. I think it may have served as a place for personal retreats. It sounded like an interesting change, and we prepared to move into the hut. As directed, we walked down the road to a small restaurant where the trail led off through the jungle. Another trail to the right took us up the hill to a small thatched hut in a clearing. We slept in one small room and cooked over an open fire in another room. We explored the surroundings. At the very top of the hill was a small patch of jungle with large old trees covered in vines. In a recess in a rock outcropping was a small altar. There was a statue of one of the gods, I forget which one, the stubs of incense sticks and flower petals. The little restaurant had a radio and loudspeaker that sent out classical Indian music in the mornings. So, sometimes we would walk down the jungle trail for breakfast as we listened to the music. We would eat with farmers that were on their way to the fields. The only choice was always some sort of lentil stew. One day as we left, a farmer walked away with his one-bladed plow over his shoulder. He would harness the plow to a draft animal. I made some romanticized remark about the image of the farmer and his plow. Linda said I had a noble savage complex. On another day, early in the morning, I was walking through the jungle alone and I met a man carrying 2 beautiful mangoes. He smiled, bowed, handed me one of the mangoes and walked on. We discovered there was a very small village with an open-air market. We started buying a few supplies there because it was closer than Articulan. The whole market was in the shade of a large mango tree. I remember going up to a woman sitting beside a large bag of dried chili peppers. I told her I would like to buy 3 peppers. She laughed and handed me 3 peppers and shook her head in disbelief. I don't think there was a coin small enough to buy 3 peppers. The little market was on the other side of a low pass. Every time I came to the pass, I was overcome with a puzzling feeling. It seemed that I had been there before, a very long time ago. Linda and I discovered jackfruit. They are green with a bumpy exterior shaped like an oversized eggplant, and they grow straight out of the trunks of trees. Sometimes we saw women walking to market with one large jackfruit on their heads. They couldn't have sold them for more than a few cents. The inside of the fruit had sweet, creamy yellow pudding-like goo that we would scoop out with spoons. Mixed with the yellow goo were seeds the size of golf balls that we roasted in the fire. The taste was between a potato and a chestnut. We also roasted cashews in the fire. The first time someone sees a cashew tree, they are surprised. The tree is covered with fruit that looks like apples. From the bottom of each apple hangs a green cashew-shaped object about twice the size of a cashew nut. You think, wait, that's where cashews come from? The apples aren't bad, but if you let the skin touch your face, you get a rash. You can't just take the green husk off the nut. You have to put the encased cashews in a fire and wait until the heat drives off some sort of acid, I guess tannic acid. Then the husk turns black and splits open. You must take the nut out of the fire at just the right time or it will burn. Now you know why cashews are so expensive. After you have processed your own cashews, you wonder why they are so cheap. The only problem with life in the hut was the monkeys. They lived up in the jungle and would come down and steal our food. We would walk in and see a large monkey sitting in the hut, casually eating one of our bananas. We were coming to the end of the dry season. It was getting hotter and wells were going dry. Food for some people and for many animals was getting scarce. Wild animals were getting desperate and bolder. Rats would try to steal food in broad daylight. Jackals came down out of the hills at night to hunt. We were awoken by their terrible howls. People always compare a jackal cry to the sound of a woman being murdered. We started carrying flashlights at night, which supposedly warded them off. One night, they killed an old woman who was walking on the beach. One night, they chased Charlie up the hill. But they were beautiful animals that moved with a graceful, fluid gait that was more like that of a cat than a dog. There is no more dramatic and emotional weather change than the arrival of the monsoon. One day we saw large clouds in the sky. Each successive day they were larger and darker. All the hot, dry, thirsty people and animals waited for the relief the clouds promised. Then one day a few large drops hit the ground with a plop and kicked up dust like a spray of bullets. That was the day Linda and I decided to leave. The next day we packed up, said our goodbyes, and started walking down the road. Halfway to the ferry, the monsoon hit, and we were soon drenched. But it felt so good. People come out of their houses and danced in the rain. Not long after that, I read in a newspaper that flooding in Kerala had caused many deaths. Vagrant thoughts. I noticed that when Linda and I had a difference of opinion, it would eventually turn out that she was right. I also realized that this didn't bother me nearly as much as it had when we were married.